Ever stopped and thought, like really thought about how unlikely your own existence is? I mean, think about it. Every single one of your ancestors, going back thousands of years, they all had to survive long enough to, well, to have kids, to keep that line going. And if even just one of them had gotten taken out by a predator or a disease or whatever, you wouldn't be here.
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it, the sheer odds against any of us being here?
Totally. And that's what we're diving into today, the epic tale of how humans made it, how we went from, hunting and gathering to launching rockets into space.
From surviving saber-toothed tigers to, well, surviving traffic jams.
Exactly. It's all about resilience, the almost superhuman ability to adapt and overcome. And that's not just some, feel-good story. It's in our DNA. It's literally a part of who we are.
It is, and that story starts way back with our early human ancestors. I'm talking about those who were braving ice ages, facing down predators. Seriously, imagine a world with woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers running around. Yikes.
Talk about a hardcore survival challenge. I can barely handle a spider in my bathtub.
Right. But these weren't just, passive survivors. They were incredibly resourceful and adaptable. They figured out how to make fire, how to create tools, and they migrated across entire continents. Talk about pushing boundaries.
It's like they were constantly problem-solving, innovating, coming up with new ways to thrive in a world that was pretty much trying to kill them at every turn.
Exactly. And that ingenuity, that drive to survive against all odds, that's what allowed them to not just exist, but to flourish and ultimately to lead to us.
It makes you look at those ancient cave paintings in a whole new light, doesn't it? They weren't just doodling. Those were our ancestors documenting their survival strategies.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that it wasn't all skill, and Smart's luck played a huge role too.
Oh yeah, like what about those massive plagues that wiped out entire populations? It's kind of sobering to think that sometimes survival came down to just being in the right place at the right time.
Definitely those who made it through those events weren't necessarily stronger or smarter. They were often just lucky, and that's a humbling thought, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It kind of makes you realize that we're all here thanks to a crazy mix of, skill and chance innovation and dumb luck.
Absolutely. And that legacy of resilience, that capacity for adaptation, and that little sprinkle of luck, well, it's all encoded in your genes.
Whoa, that means I'm walking around with the strength of all those survivors inside me. That's kind of awesome.
Every cell in your body is a testament to an unbroken chain of victories against impossible odds. Every single one of your ancestors, they had to survive long enough to pass on their genes, and that's a powerful legacy.
That's seriously mind-blowing, and it makes you wonder, how can we tap into that inner survivor? How do we make that ancient wisdom relevant to our lives today? I mean, we're not exactly fending off wild beasts anymore, are we?
True, but the challenges we face today, they might be different, but they require a similar kind of grit and adaptability. Think about it. Job losses, pandemics, the constant pressure to keep up in this crazy, fast-paced world. These are the modern-day mammoths we have to wrestle with.
So how do we even begin to approach these things with that same ancestral strength? What's the secret sauce?
Well, one key ingredient is embracing discomfort. You see, our ancestors, they didn't shy away from challenges. They faced them head-on, and that's how they grew, how they adapted. It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Right. But how do we apply that in our everyday lives? So I'm not suggesting we all go out and wrestle bears.
No bear wrestling required, but we can push ourselves outside our comfort zones in other ways. Maybe it's learning a new skill, taking on a tough project at work, or finally having that difficult conversation you've been putting off. The point is to challenge ourselves consistently to build that resilience muscle.
Gotcha. So step one, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. What else?
Adaptability, that's another crucial skill our ancestors mastered. They had to constantly adjust to new environments, new threats, new ways of life, and guess what? We need to do the same today.
Makes sense. The world's changing faster than ever. Technology's disrupting everything. The climate's shifting. Uncertainty feels like the only constant. We can't just stand still. We got to adapt or risk getting left behind.
Exactly. And adaptability, it's more than just learning the latest tech. It's about being flexible in our thinking, open to new ideas, willing to change course when we need to. It's about embracing the unexpected and turning obstacles into opportunities.
So instead of resisting change, we should lean into it. That's a pretty powerful shift in perspective.
It is, because when we resist change, we just create unnecessary stress and struggle. But when we embrace it, we unlock new possibilities and we tap into that inherent adaptability that's in our DNA.
Okay, so we've got embracing discomfort and practicing adaptability. What's the third key takeaway from our ancestral playbook?
Legacy, our ancestors didn't just survive for themselves, they survived so that we could exist their struggles, their triumphs. It was all part of a larger story, a story that continues with us.
Wow, that's a pretty profound thought. So how do we honor their legacy? What does that even look like in our day-to-day lives?
It means living intentionally asking ourselves, what kind of world do I want to leave behind for future generations? It means thinking about the impact of our choices, not just on ourselves, but on the people around us and on the planet as a whole.
So it's about thinking bigger than ourselves, about contributing to something larger than our own individual lives.
Precisely. Think of your life as a chapter in an ongoing story, a story that began thousands of years ago. What do you want your chapter to say? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Okay, so we've got embracing discomfort and practicing adaptability. What's the third key takeaway from our ancestral playbook?
Legacy.
Legacy.
Our ancestors didn't just survive for themselves, right? They survived so we could exist, so that you and I could be having this conversation right now. Their struggles, their triumphs. It was all part of a larger story, a story that continues with us.
Whoa, it's a pretty heavy thought. So how do we even begin to honor that legacy? What does that even look like, in our modern world?
I think it starts with living intentionally. Like really asking ourselves what kind of impact we want to have on the world. What kind of world do we want to leave behind for the generations that come after us? It's about thinking bigger than ourselves, about contributing to something larger than just our own individual lives.
So it's not just about, getting through the day-to-day. It's about recognizing that we're all part of something much bigger. This incredible chain of life that stretches back thousands and thousands of years.
Exactly. And that our actions today, they can ripple out and affect the future in ways we can't even imagine. It's a humbling thought, but also an empowering one, We have the power to shape the story that's still being written.
So, how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think a good place to start is by asking ourselves a few key questions. Like, what are my values? What do I care about most? What kind of impact do I want to make on the world? And then start making choices that align with those values. Even small choices can make a big difference over time.
So it's about being mindful and intentional with our actions, even the little things, like choosing to recycle, or volunteering in our communities, or just being kinder to each other.
Exactly, because every action we take, every choice we make, it adds another line to our chapter of this incredible story. And that's a pretty amazing thing to think about, isn't it? That we all have the power to contribute to something so much bigger than ourselves.
It's almost like we're all co-authors of this epic tale of human survival. And now it's our turn to add our own unique voices to the mix.
And what will your chapter say?
So we've been talking about this incredible legacy of resilience we've inherited from our ancestors and how we can apply those ancient survival skills to the challenges we face today.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable when you think about it, how those two came before us faced down saber-toothed tigers in ice ages and somehow managed to not just survive, but to thrive.
Right, and it's like that strength, that grit, that adaptability. It's all encoded in our DNA, just waiting for us to tap into it.
It is, and I think that's a really empowering thought, that we're not starting from scratch. We have this incredible blueprint for resilience passed down to us through generations.
But, it's easy to get discouraged sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world can feel pretty overwhelming with all the complexities and uncertainties. And it's like, how do we keep that ancestral fire burning bright when we're faced with the pressures of modern life?
Well, I think it's about remembering that challenges aren't roadblocks. They're stepping stones. Every obstacle we overcome, every lesson we learn, it adds to our collective strength and resilience.
It's like our ancestors are cheering us on from the sidelines, saying, come on, you got this. We faced down saber-toothed tigers. You can handle that deadline.
Exactly. It's about tapping into that deep well of strength that runs through our veins and knowing that we're capable of far more than we often give ourselves credit for.
And that even when things feel tough, we're not alone. We're part of this incredible chain of life that stretches back millennia, and we carry the wisdom and resilience of all those who came before us.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That we're all connected in this way, that we're all part of something so much bigger than ourselves.
It really is, and I think it's a reminder that we have a responsibility to honor that legacy, to live our lives in a way that, makes those who came before us proud.
And to leave the world a little bit better than we found it for the generations that come after us.
So to our listener out there, the one who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by the challenges of modern life, remember this: you are a survivor. Mm-hmm. You come from a long line of incredibly resilient people, and you have the power to overcome anything life throws your way.
And don't forget that sprinkle of luck that helped our ancestors along the way. It's still out there just waiting for you to find it.
So go out there and write your own epic chapter in the story of human survival. We can't wait to see what you accomplish.